Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel again and to a new video. This is a big video today. I'm gonna show you how you can create your own Nextcloud instance. In my case, I'm gonna do it on Linode because I cannot actually do it here at home myself, which was actually my dream. But the problem is, especially with a mail server, is to have a static IP, and my ISP does not provide me with static IP, and only if I'm a business customer. And even so, it's quite expensive to have one for some reason. I don't know why, but that's how it is, and I'm not able to create one here at home. I know there is DNS, but for a mail server, it's a little bit tricky. So a static IP is very important, and I'm not going to be able to do it. Anyway, I'm doing everything on Linode, as you know. I moved already my website over. I am planning to move my mail server as well. I have to wait because my domain is too new and I cannot move it to a registrar where I can set my personal DNS. So that's going to take still a little bit time. I'm testing this out right now with another domain and it's working fine. So I'll just have to be patient here. And the third part is to move my data on the cloud. So I mean on open source. And that's what I did last week here on Linode. So today I'm going to show you how I did it. And there are two ways here to install Nextcloud on Linode. One is using the marketplace. There is an image already there, which is based on Debian 10. And with a few clicks, you can get started very quickly there. So that's one way, but today I'm going to show it to you in another way, and that is the manual way. Because I want to choose also another distribution, not because I don't like Debian, because Debian is great and I really like it. It's just to show you also something different. And so if you plan to do this, you just have to make sure that your domain is pointed to Linode. Your name server should be pointed to Linode. Otherwise, what I'm going to show you today is not going to work. I have already my domain set up here. So I'm ready to go. So you go to create here and you choose Linode. And you can choose now the distribution. Now we have lots of choices here. We have OpenSUSE, we have Ubuntu 24 LTS, one of the best servers you can get. We have here Slackware, we have Fedora server as well. We have Debian, we have CentOS 8, we have Arch, and we have Alpine. Now for this tutorial, for this video, I'm going to show you how to install Nextcloud on CentOS Stream 8 for several reasons. The first reason is because CentOS requires a little bit more setup. It's a little bit more complex because you have to set also the SE Linux policies. You have to set up also the firewall, and it requires a little bit more work. But I think in the end, it provides a more tight installation. So that's why I'm going to show it to you in here. And that's also the one that I have on my instance. Now, if you don't like CentOS 8 or if you don't like RHEL-based distros, definitely go for Ubuntu 24 LTS server. It's one of the best servers you can get as well. So let's go ahead and I click here CentOS Stream. For the region, I'm going to select Frankfurt because it's the closest to me. And for this demo, I'm going to choose the Nanode for 25 gigabytes and 1 gigabyte of RAM. Now I'm going to call this Linode, let's say my cloud, just as an example. And I'm going to enter the password for SSH. And I'm not going to use backups in this demo, so I'm going to click create. And now the machine is provisioning and booting up. While it's doing that, we can take care of our domain records. So let's copy the IPv4 address here, which is assigned to us, and go to domains. And I'm going to expand my domain name here and go down to add a record and click add an A record here. And for the host name, I'm going to call it my cloud, so that when I type in mycloud.eflinux.com, I'm going to be basically pointed to my instance. Then I'm going to paste here the address that we just copied and click save. And let's see, it's already now in here. And I'm going to do the same for the IPv6 address, which is also here. There you go. And go back to domains and go to add an A record. And again, I'm going to call this my cloud. And I'm going to paste in the IPv6 address here. And I'm just going to remove the 64 and the slash because we don't need this, and click save. There you go. So depending also on the DNS propagation, it might take some time for the DNS to propagate in the internet. Normally they say up to 48 hours. Depends also on your ISP. So let's go back to the Linode and see how we are doing there. And it's up and running. So let's go ahead here and copy our SSH command here. and go to our terminal and type it in, or paste it in, and hit enter. So we enter yes here and enter the password we gave to the root user before. And now we are in our Linode. So this is a server. First things first, we need to first update the server. This is very important because it's an instance looking into the internet. So we want to have update packages. So we can use yum or DNF as a package manager. I'm going to use DNF this time. So I'm going to type in DNF update and hit enter here. And it's going to synchronize first the repositories and then check for updates. I believe there are some of these. There are some updates to do here. There is also a kernel update I've seen. So that means it's going to take some time to download and install. So I'm going to post the video here and I'll be back with you guys when it's done. So there you go. The update is now finished and we can clean up the terminal. There are a few things we need to do before we reboot the server because we want to reboot it so that the new packages are in place. So the first one is to create a user for the system because I don't want to mess up with the root user here. So let's type in user add -m capital G and then wheel. And then I'll type in my username here. So we are creating a user with my name, which belongs also to the wheel group for sudo privileges, which is already active in CentOS. Then we're going to give a password to this user. So pass wd and the name and create a new password and retype it. And this is done. Next, we are going to change also the host name of the machine because the one we have right now is not really descriptive. So let's type in host name ctl and then set-host name. I'm going to call my machine mycloud.eflinux.com. There you go. And then hit enter. Then I'm going to do also a small change to the host file. So let's type in vim. You can use also nano. Vim is pre-installed here. etc/hosts. And I'm going to go here at the end and create a new line. And I think I forgot the IPv4 address of the machine. So let me copy it here very quickly again. There you go. And I'm going to type it in here, mycloud.eflinux.com. There you go. And then we can save this file and exit Vim. And before we reboot, then the last step would be to install some packages, utilities for the server that we might need actually in the future. So I'm going to copy this over because it's quite a list, and I will leave, of course, a link to them in the video description so that you don't have to type everything. Take your time now. If you need to, just pause the video so that you can see the packages for yourself. And I'm going to paste them basically in here. We have April release. This is a repo for the extra packages for enterprise Linux. Yum utils, unzip, curl, wget. These are all utilities for the system which might become in handy. So I'm going to install them here and just hit enter. It's going to take a second to do that. These are not big packages. It should not take more than a couple of seconds. And before rebooting, the last check will be to make another update because I think there is one for the Apple repository, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to check for that first and then tell me if there are updates. And indeed, there is one. It's a small one, but I'm going to do it. There you go. And now we are ready to reboot our server. So let's type in reboot. And we'll just need to wait maybe 1 minute before the machine is back up. So I'll pause the video here and I'll be back with you in a sec. So here we go. The server seems to be back up. So let's go back to the terminal here. And this time I'm going to type in SSH and then my name and then the address I used before and hit enter. Need to enter my sudo password. And we should be logged in now to mycloud. There you go. So now we can begin the installation. So for installing Nextcloud, we need to install the so-called LAMP stack. So Linux, Apache, MariaDB, PHP. And we have already Linux, so we can move over to Apache, our web server. So let's do this by typing in sudo dnf install -y httpd. This is the Apache web server. Enter our sudo password. And it's going to download the package. This is not a big package. It shouldn't take too long to install. There you go. And next, we are going to create a virtual host for our Nextcloud installation. So to do this, we are going to type in sudo vim/etc/httpd/conf.d. So this is a snap-in directory. And we're going to call the file nextcloud.conf and hit enter. So I'm going to copy over the virtual host that I already prepared, and don't worry, again, I'm going to leave a link to it in the video description below. So I'm going to paste it in with Shift Enter, and I'm just going to change here the server name because that's not the one we have. And so let me delete this and type in here mycloud.eflinux.com, and then we can save the file and exit Vim. There you go. So now we can start our Apache web server. So we can type in sudo systemctl enable -- now httpd and hit enter. And our web server is up and running. Let's verify this with systemctl status httpd, and you can see it's active and running. We have no errors on the log here. Perfect. Let's clean up the terminal and move over now to PHP. This is the next module we want to install. So in CentOS, actually, some of the extensions we need for Nextcloud on PHP are not available on the main repositories. So we need to enable one extra repository to do that. So the repository is the Remi repo repository. So we can install it here by running this command that I'm going to copy here over to the terminal. So I'm going to type in here sudo and paste in the command. Again, don't worry, I have all the commands in the video description. And with this command here, we are going to basically install this repository in the system, which should take actually really a second. There you go. And now we can install our PHP module. Now, what's nice here in CentOS, like Fedora or RHEL, is that the YAM or DNF package managers allow you to install some modules for certain repositories. So, for example, PHP has 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4 repositories. And with the module command, you can decide which module, which of these versions you want to install. And you can then in the future also remove them or install another one and so on. So it's very nice to manage. So the first command is to make sure that we reset the module because we want to install a specific one. So I'm going to type in sudo dnf module reset php and hit enter. So this is going to make sure that we are going to install the module we want from scratch. So there you go. There's nothing to do. It was already done, but I just wanted to make sure. Next is to install the module we need. So let's type in sudo dnf module install, then php : Remi from the Remi repository -7.4. The Remi repository has the extensions we need also for Nextcloud. Some of them, because some of them are available, as I said, in the main repository, some of them not. That's why we need this Remi repository. And then hit enter. Now this is going to take a moment. Hit Y here and Y to accept the keys. And it's going to take a moment here. These are not big packages. It should be taking not more than a couple of seconds. There you go. So now we have this. Let's make sure that there are no updates. So let's type in sudo dnf update just to make sure that there are no extra updates here for these modules. There you go. Everything is up to date. So now we can install the PHP extensions. So let me copy them over and type in here sudo, and I paste in the command. Now pause the video if you need to, and again I will leave a link to these in the video description below. I might add here some of these. They are not on the list. One is php-bcmath, and also php-gmp, and also php-process, and I'm going to install also php-redis and php-imagic. There you go. I think this is all for now, and hit enter. Now this is going to take a little bit longer because there are a couple of more packages to install. So I'll pause the video again and I'll be back with you when it's done. So there you go. The packages are now installed. So again, let's clean up the terminal and move over to our MariaDB, to our database. So we need to install the packages for that. So let's type in sudo dnf install -y MariaDB and MariaDB-server and hit enter. So again, this is going to take a moment. The MariaDB is not a big package. So after this, we are going to enable the service and secure the installation, and then we can create our database that we need for Nextcloud. So we are almost there with the installation, and this is now done. So let's enable the system by typing in sudo systemctl enable -- now MariaDB and hit enter. And the MariaDB is up and running. Now we need to secure the installation, so we can type in sudo mysql underscore secure underscore installation and hit enter. So enter the correct password for the root user. This is actually referring to the MariaDB server. We don't have any password there, so we can just enter for none. And we are asked if you want to set the root password. Definitely yes. So we can create a new one here and retype it. And remove anonymous users. I would say yes. And disallow root login. Definitely so. Remove also the test database and reload the privileges. And the secure installation is now done. So now we can create our database for Nextcloud. So let's do this by typing in sudo mysql -u and then root and then -p. So we're going to use the root user to create our database, and we enter now the password that we gave the root user before. And now we can create our database. So let's go ahead and do that by typing in create database. I'm going to call the database Nextcloud and then a semicolon and hit enter. Now we're going to create a user for this database and give him full privileges on this database. So let's type in grant all privileges on Nextcloud.asterisk, so everything on the database, to, comma, the username. So I'm going to type in here my name. I'm going to create this user at, comma, localhost, comma, again, identified by, comma, the password you want to use. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to use my password. It's not a very secure password, but for the demo is okay. And then hit enter. Okay, now we can flush the privileges. Semicolon, never forget that. And now we can quit the database by typing in quit and hit enter. There you go. Now we can clean up the terminal. So we have our database there up and running. Now it's time to install Redis, which we're going to use as a memcache for Nextcloud. So let's type in sudo dnf install -y and then Redis and hit enter. It's not a big package. It shouldn't take too long to install here. There you go. And now we can enable the Redis service by typing in sudo systemctl enable --now and then Redis and hit enter. And Redis is up and running. So now it's time to install our Nextcloud packages. So let's go back to the browser and type in here Nextcloud install. And let's click the first link here. And we're going to go to Nextcloud server, download for server. And we're going to right click here on the button because we need the link location for this. So once we have done that, we can go back to the terminal and type in wget and paste what we just copied. And it's going to take a moment here to download Nextcloud. There you go. So let's type in ls. You can see we have a zip file in there. So we need to unzip this zip file. So let's type in unzip and then Nextcloud 21 and hit enter. So it's going to take a moment here to do this. And after this, we need to move the newly created directory into the document root directory of our web server. So let's clean up the terminal and type in ls again. You can see we have the zip file here and the Nextcloud directory that was created. So we need to move this directory into our document root. So we can type in sudo cp-r because we want to make it recursive, Nextcloud. And we're going to move this over to /var/www/html and then hit enter. It's going to take a couple of seconds because there's a lot of data in there to be copied. There you go. And we need to create also the data directory for Nextcloud, which was not created. So we can type in sudo mkdir /var/www/html/nextcloud/data and hit enter. And this is also done. Now we need to change the ownership of the Nextcloud directory to the Apache user and Apache group. That's actually the user for the Apache web server. So we can do that by typing in sudo chown -r, again, because we want to make it recursive, then Apache :Apache. So the user and the group both belong to the web server. And then this is going to be to /var/www/html/nextcloud and hit enter. And there you go, this is done. Now we can restart our web server. So let's type in sudo systemctl restart httpd and hit enter. It's going to take a second. There you go. And this is done. Now, two important steps. We need to configure the firewall and SE Linux. So the first one is the firewall. We need to open two services, HTTP and HTTPS, and two ports, 80 and 443. So let's begin with the services. Sudo firewall -cmd -add -service equal first HTTP, and we're going to make this -- permanent and hit enter. Now we're going to repeat the process for HTTPS. So I'm going to add an S here and hit enter. Now the permanent option actually makes sure that this option is enabled when we restart the server, but I'm going to reload the firewall afterwards, so I'm not worrying about starting it right now. Now I'm going to do the same also for the ports that we need. So let's delete here HTTPS and the service and add port. So the first port is 80/TCP and hit enter. And repeat the process for port 443 and hit enter. And now we can reload the firewall by typing in sudo firewall -cmd -reload and hit enter. And now we have our ports and our services open. There you go. Now we need to configure SE Linux. So I already did a video on SE Linux, and what we are doing here, we are basically making sure that the new directories in the Nextcloud directory in our document root have the correct label, have the correct context label. Otherwise, SE Linux will block the access to our installation. So I will paste the commands over because I already prepared them here. And again, don't worry, I will leave a link to these in the video description below. So the first directory is the data directory, which I think it's already actually correctly set, but I'm gonna just check just in case. And we are using the semanage-f context. So that means that we are using this label on the data directory so that SE Linux knows that this directory actually should be labeled with this context label. Otherwise, if it's not going to be able to access it. And then we can hit enter. But I think the data directory should be already fine. There you go, it's already defined. So let's move over to the second one, which is the config directory. So I'm going to again paste it over here. And you can see we are doing basically the same thing. We are applying this label to the config directory and everything in there. And we can hit enter. And we are going to repeat the same process for the apps directory, which I'm going to copy over. So sudo and paste and hit enter. And repeat the process for the .ht access file in our Nextcloud directory. So again, sudo, and I'm going to paste it over here and hit enter. I'm going to repeat the same process also for the user ini file. And I'm going to type in here sudo and paste it in and hit enter. And the last one is for our third-party apps directory. So I'm going to copy it over here. There you go, and hit enter. Again, don't worry about all of these. I have all the links in the video description below. Now that we have the label set, we need to run the restore con command to restore the policy. So I'm going to copy this over again and type in here sudo and paste it in. And it's going to take maybe 5-6 seconds to do this because there are many labels to be actually restored there. So that is done. And the last step for the SE Linux is to also set one Boolean. Now, I haven't talked about Booleans yet. I'm going to do a separate video about that. That's the second big component for SE Linux. They are basically switches that you can turn on and off, and they are enabling certain functions so that SE Linux can basically function correctly. Now, one of these is this one right here. The HTTPD CAN network connect set to on. This is important, otherwise we won't be able to use our installation, and then hit enter. And it's going to take a second to do that. There you go. So basically this is actually done. We need to now finish the installation over to the browser. So let's go there. This of course is going to depend also if the DNS has already propagated, but let's try it out. mycloud.eflinux.com and hit enter. And you can see it's already propagated. Now it's great that it's working. I have this because I have already an instance here installed and it's saving the login infos. You can see we don't have an SSL yet, but we are gonna fix this in a moment. Now we need to create an admin account. So I'm gonna create here an admin account with my name and I'll give it a password. And here we have performance warning. Don't worry about that. We just click the storage and database link here. The data folder is already set, as you can see, but we're going to switch over to MySQL MariaDB. And we need to fill up here this information. So the database user that I created when we created the database was my name. And the password was my password, if you remember. And the database name was Nextcloud. There you go. This is all there is to it. So we can click Finish Setup. And it's going to take here maybe 1 or 2 minutes to complete the setup. So I'll pause the video here and I'll be back with you guys when it's done. And here we go. The installation is almost complete. We have still some steps to perform. So let's go through the welcome screens here, all the good stuff about Nextcloud and start using Nextcloud. Then we'll go to the user here and settings. Then we'll jump over to overview, because we have some security warnings there for sure. So as you can see, we need to change some things in the PHP module. We need to set SSL, and we need to set also the memcache, which is not configured yet. So let's begin with PHP. Let's go back to the terminal and let's clean it up and type in sudo vim/etc/php.ini and hit enter. Now we need to search here for a couple of parameters. So the first one is the memory limit, because that's the one where Nextcloud was complaining about. So I'm going to search here for memory limit, and I see it right there. And we need to change this to 512 megabytes. There you go. The next one is the upload max file size. So let's search for that. Upload underscore max, and that's the one. I'm gonna make this 200 megs. There you go. Then we have also the max execution time. So let's search for it. Max underscore execution. That's the one right there. And we're gonna change this to 360. There you go. And we are gonna use also the post max size. So let's type in post underscore max, and that's the one right there. We are gonna change this to 200. There you go. And the last one here, it's the date time zone. So let's search for that, date.time zone. There you go. We need to uncomment this line by deleting the semicolon here. And we need to put in here our time zone. Now, if you don't know your time zone, you can click this link here and you will see the list, and then you can enter it in here. So mine is Europe/Zurich. There you go. And we can search also for the opcache, because we need to configure that. So opcache. And as you can see here, for the opcache, refer to this file. So let's copy it over here, and I can actually save this file and exit Vim and type in now sudo vim and paste in the path that I just copied and hit enter. There you go. So opcache enable is already there. That's good. Then we need to find another parameter. So that is opcache.interned strings. That's the one. So we need to uncomment this line, but we can leave the value as it is. Next, we need to go to the max accelerated for the opcache. So opcache.max accelerated. I can see it right there. And we can also here delete the semicolon. 10,000 is fine. The next parameter is the memory consumption. So opcache.memory consumption. And again, we delete the semicolon here. And we need to also check the opcache save comments. So opcache.save comments. There you go. We need to just delete this. And the last one is opcache revalidate. So opcache.revalidate. There you go. And we can delete the semicolon here and change the value to 1. There you go. And this is now done. Now, there is still one thing we need to configure in our config.php file for Nextcloud, because we are using Redis and we need to put also that in that file. So let's type in sudo vim /var /www/html/nextcloud/config/config.php and hit enter. I'm going to go down here at the end of the file, and let's see, I'm going to insert it right here, and I'm going to make a space here, and I'm going to copy it here. I'm going to again put it in the video description, so don't worry about that. And I'll click Shift Insert on the keyboard, and I'm going to align everything so that it looks nicer. There you go. I'm going to port this in also one. There you go. And there is still something that I need to add here. I'm going to add it after the true parameter here, and that is the default phone underscore region. And then it's going to be equal and major than symbol to ch. Now this I'm doing it because the Nextcloud, it's already complaining here about it. You can see the default phone region. If you don't know your phone region, you can click this link and you will find it, and you can enter it in the file here. Then we can save this file and exit Vim, and we can clean up the terminal. So let's see, let's reload our Nextcloud instance here. Some of these warnings are gone, some of them not, because we need to reboot our server. So we can see here we still need to install SSL. Let's do that. Go back to the terminal and type in sudo dnf install. So the package is certbot, and then python 3 -certbot -apache. And I think it's already installed, but I'm going to install it anyway, mod_SSL, and hit enter. So this is going to take a moment to install. There are not too big packages, so it's about 17 megabytes. It shouldn't take too long here. And after this, we are going to generate the SSL certificate for our domain. So let's clean up the terminal and type in sudo certbot -apache -d for the domain, and my domain is mycloud.eflinux.com. And if I'm not mistaken, this is going to fail because we have to restart the web server once. Yes, it's a bug in the mod SSL package. Doesn't matter. We can type in sudo systemctl restart httpd and hit enter. And let's see if now we restart again our certbot command here. Now it should be okay. There you go. We need to enter the email address for renewals. So I'm going to do this very quickly. And accept the agreement. Absolutely, yes. Share my email with the electronic frontier. I already done that. So I'll type in here no. And now it's making a challenge to my domain. Waiting for verification, cleaning up. That means it should be actually working fine. There you go. So let's go back to the browser and reload our instance. And you can see the padlock is there. So the connection is now secure, but we have still one thing to correct, and that is this strict transport security. So that's easy. We can open up here this new link and go down here until we find strict transport security. So what we need to do, we need to copy these 3 lines here and move to the terminal and go into our nextcloud.com file. So let's type in sudo vim/etc/httpd/conf.d and then nextcloud.conf. And I'm going to move down here to the end of the file and create a new line and paste that in with Shift Insert, and then save the file and exit Vim. Now let's go back to the browser and go back to our instance. I think that warning will be gone. It's not gone. Okay, we need to reboot our server. So let's do that. Let's go back to the terminal here and type in sudo reboot and hit enter. Of course, lost the connection. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go back to the browser here and wait for the server to be back up. So I'm going to pause the video here and I'm going to be back with you guys in a sec. So there we go. The server is now back again, and I'm just going to check that it's still not launching Nextcloud. Let me see what's going on here in the Leash console, and I can see it's not yet fully done. There you go. Now the server is up, so let's go back to Nextcloud here and refresh our instance. And let's see, Probably Nextcloud is not yet running. It's going to take maybe a second to do that. There you go. And it's checking for the system issues. And now we should have everything good and we should be ready to go. And there you go, all checks passed. So our Nextcloud is now up and running and ready to go. So there you go. This is actually how you can install Nextcloud on Linode using CentOS 8. As I said before, CentOS 8 is the choice here for me because it's a little bit more tight as an installation, and I think it's also more interesting. It requires more technical information, and you can learn also more about SE Linux and the Firewall D, which is the firewall shipping with CentOS. Again, this is not because I love CentOS and I hate Ubuntu. I'm not that kind of person. Ubuntu is a fantastic operating system, is a fantastic server. I use that also a lot, but for this tutorial, I just chose CentOS Stream 8 just to show you also some other aspects of the installation. So if you try this out, let me know in the comments below how it's working for you. And if you have any question about the video, let me also know in the comments below. I will also try to answer you as soon as I can. And I hope you like the video. And if you want to support my work, you can do so by becoming a Patreon. I'm using actually now Nextcloud with my Patreons to do live webinars every month. So we are focusing, of course, on Linux and on specific topics about Linux every month, 1 hour webinar. And if you want to support my work, you can do that, or you can also donate via PayPal through my website as well. So thank you so much for watching the video, guys. I really appreciate that, and I'll see you soon in the next one.